Okay, hello everybody. My name's John Bleasdale. I'm at the Cannes Film Festival for Writers on Film, and I'm here with two European film experts who are both with EuroNews, right?
Absolutely, yeah.
And you are?
David Mouriquand, the Deputy Culture Editor at EuroNews.
And Fred Ponsard, actually, critics and culture référent, as we said in French.
Grand Poobah.
Advisor, in a way, for cinema and culture.
Okay, I've got a very quick question for you before we get to the film that we're going to talk about, or a couple of questions actually. First off, what was your first Cannes?
My first Cannes was in the late 20th century, actually, in the early 90s, and it was in 93 for So Far So Close of Wim Wenders, who won the grand prize. And actually at that time I worked in Lyon with Thierry Frémaux, actually, which was the director of the Institut Lumière, and I was his driver. I worked for him and for the Institut Lumière, of course, as a young student, and he just asked me one day to rent a car and a smoking, as we said in French, a tuxedo, sorry, for my French. And so we drove from Lyon to Cannes, and it was the first time I was there, and I was this ticket to see this movie, and it was my first entry in Cannes. And then I started to write for papers, mainly. It wasn't digital at that time, but it was the first time of internet as well. And so I worked until the 2002, and I started for EuroNews and for television. So it was my first memory, Wim Wenders. And last year he won the grand prize as well with Perfect Days. So yeah, for me it's like a loop. Yeah, exactly.
The circle closes.
Exactly, yeah.
And David?
I mean, mine's not as interesting as Fred. I think mine was in 2015, so quite recent. It was when Jacques Audiard won the Palme d'Or with Deepan. But I remember really enjoying that year because there was, I'm actually pulling it up now, there was Yorgos Lanthimos with The Lobster, Louder Than Bob's, the Joachim Trier, what else was there? The Sicario, I really enjoyed that, the Denis Villeneuve, and Laszlo Nemes with Son of Saul. So, I mean, it was a really, really good year to start. But I mean, I have to admit, I must confess, I've been dipping in and out of Cannes. I've been going quite regularly recently, but I've always kind of preferred going to Berlin or Venice. I can't deny. I love Cannes, but there is a kind of air of gentle lunacy here that tends to kind of just mess with me and my stress levels in Cannes.
Yeah, there's a kind of craziness in Cannes because everybody's stressed in a way. There's so many people, and it's very different from Berlin and Venice. But at the same time, I enjoy so much Cannes because you've got so many possibilities to see movies from the competition, but from the Un Certain Regard, from the Quinzaine des Cinéastes, from the Semaine de la Critique. So you've got a huge menu. So you just have to pick up some things, and that's the pleasure in Cannes, more than in Berlin or Venice. That less proposition in a way, even if it's rich. But and at the same time, Cannes is the way just to couple in a way fashion or the
parties.
Yeah, parties, things like that, and culture at the same time, and strong issues which are on the screen there. So you get the whole picture is that of cinema, and it represents cinema for the world picture.
You can see why he makes the big bucks at EuroNews. I mean, that genuinely, you made me like it even more now. It's just like, God damn it.
It's like, I was thinking Venice is like a tasting menu, and Cannes is like an eat all you want restaurant.
That's actually a really good way of saying it.
Okay, one last question before we move on to the film. Encounters in Cannes. Cannes is one of these places that you meet people, famous people. You meet fellow critics. Who have you met in Cannes? Have you got an encounter that sort of springs to mind that you'd like to tell us?
I do purely because it was one of the worst interviews I ever did. I got 10 minutes with Sylvester Stallone, and
did he punch you?
No, he didn't. No, fair. Funnily enough, he didn't. I just couldn't understand a word he was saying. So it was just one of those things where, obviously, you're Hollywood legend, and all of that, Rocky Balboa. But at the same time, I can't deny I couldn't really give a monkeys about the actual film and interviewing him. But it was still Sly Stallone, and I just couldn't understand him. And he was just like during the whole thing. I was just politely nodding along and trying not to get punched. And essentially, I remember at the time going back to my editor, just going, I have no sodding idea how I'm going to transcribe this interview because it is just noise. And I made him listen to the thing, and he was just like, well, good luck with that, David. It's all on you, boy.
You could just speed it up the thing and maybe it'd make sense.
I should have tried that.
Usually you slow it down.
Yeah, but should have tried that. But no, that one, and I mean, you're right. There are, I mean, even last year, Fred and I were here, and it is wonderful, specifically after the Palme.
Yeah.
When you get to meet the winners on the passerelle and stuff like that. I mean, I remember there was...
actually, we have few TVs to have the lucky place to be there just after the award ceremony and just to talk with Justin Triet last year and
Jonathan Glazer.
Yeah, Jonathan Glazer, of course.
Yeah.
And all the awarded talents. So it's splendid. But about the encounters, I'm just remember this day where on the very same day I interview Robert De Niro, which is just
wow.
Yeah, Robert De Niro and Paris Hilton. Just one day. And it's Cannes.
Waxwork.
It's Cannes. It's Cannes. And it's a good summary of Cannes. So you're from the top to the bottom.
Well, let's not say the bottom.
Let's say that.
Yes. So. Let's say from the top to the not so top.
Exactly. Thank you.
Yes.
Sorry for my French.
Brilliant. Let's move on to the film that we've all watched, which was the only debut that is showing in competition this year, I think.
That is correct, yeah. And it's from a French filmmaker called Agathe Redinger, and it's called Diamant Brut, Wild Diamond is the English title. And first feature film, not the opening film, because that was Quentin Dupieux, but the first competition film we get to see. So, I mean, quite a mark of confidence on behalf of Thierry Frémaux and the Cannes Selection Committee. And I mean, it's a film about the perils of social media in a way, and the cult of beauty and what people will do in modern society in order to get ahead, but to also chase fame in a way that can be toxic, that can be body altering, that can be detrimental not only potentially to your mental health. And while it does kind of tackle these subjects, I think it does it in quite a subtle way without, going into, isn't TikTok shit? Or, these youngsters and their Instagrams. So I thought that was rather good.
Judgment, actually, in this portrait of a young woman taken by the Instagram, TikTok and stuff like that, and TV reality show, because she intends to have a job in a big show and glory and fame and so on. But there's any judgment about that. She just show a young girl struggles for life and struggle to make his own way in this crazy world in a way. So yeah, I like this movie, and it's part of this young French filmmaker. I remember largely for Les Miserables, for instance. We did a short movie first and then a long feature, and it's quite the same thing for this movie, because Diamant Brut in French is like that. She takes a wild diamond, which is this young woman, and just show us all the things that shines and that can be reflects on this diamond, and show all the different facets or angles of this young woman without judgment, and that's the power of the movie, I think.
Yeah, I'd agree with that, and the central performance by Malou Kebizi is, I thought, really quite remarkable.
No.
The film as a whole does hit some familiar beats. It doesn't kind of reinvent anything, but on the whole, for a debut film, I think it's incredibly kind of confident. She Agathe Renninger knew exactly what she was doing. Whether or not by the end of the festival it's one that's going to kind of linger in the mind, but I mean, it was confident, solid, and even in its tone. I mean, I remember telling you, John, earlier on that it had this kind of feeling. You weren't quite sure. It wasn't a happy ending. It wasn't necessarily a sad ending, but at the same time, it did feel like almost the prequel to the film Pleasure, where an aspiring performer arrives in Hollywood and is faced with the reality of the dream that she's been chasing, and how toxic that dream is, or whether or not she'll find what she's looking for. But she does remain a young woman who, as opposed to the people around her, and as opposed to her mother in particular, a character which I have to admit I was a bit frustrated by, because not particularly well-rounded and hit quite a few cliches. But nonetheless, the young performer just basically, she chases her dreams, as you say. She is somebody who actually is putting it out on the line, and there is something to be celebrated about that.
Yeah. You say everything, actually, yeah. I think it's a good movie for the jury, and especially because Greta Gerwig is the president of the jury, and this is a portrait of a young woman, as I said, who struggled for life, and that's quite brilliant.
And there were some sort of odd facets to her character as well, which weren't within the cliche. There was her religiosity. She's quite a religious young woman despite this. There's elements of that, at least. And there's elements of attitudes to sex which aren't as straightforward as you think they're going to be when you first see her. In fact, the first scene is her on a train being sort of misogynistically abused by a casual male passerby, and her anger at that shows that her attitude to sex is actually a lot different from the appearance suggests.
Yeah, and in that way it did subvert that in quite a subtle way, I thought. And the religious aspect is interesting, because throughout the film you see text appear on the screen, which are all the comments that she may have on social media, and every single time it always tends to end with one very negative or horrific comment, like you should kill yourself, and the kind of bile that you see online. But there was always religious text in there as well, and that progresses, and towards the end it does hammer the point across that this religion, this cult of beauty, and how religion can be co-opted in many ways, like a diamond has different facets, and this toxic cult of beauty, much like the toxicity of organised religion in many ways. I'm probably shouldn't be saying that right now, but well, okay, you heard it here first.
Yeah. Okay, that was brilliant. Thank you so much, guys, for sharing very early on, and hopefully we will see you. We'll see you later on in the festival.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I would love that.
We've got 22 movies to see.
What are you looking?
That's
Hold on,
why,
before we finish, John, I'm going to turn things around. What are you most looking forward to in competition? Let's limit it to competition for our sanity.
Well, Megalopolis I'm very curious about, because I think it's a very curious film, and just the story behind it makes it very curious. But in terms of sort of looking forward to something in terms of, say, quality, I think probably the Lanthimos, Kinds of Kindness.
Kinds of Kindness. Yeah, no, that's definitely on my radar. There's one I'm particularly looking forward to, which is the Coralie Fargeton, her second film, which is called The Substance, with David
The midnight screening, I think.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, and there's something about that, because I mean, I'm a big fan of horror, but also just because of her first film, Revenge, which was so good.
Excellent film, yes.
Yeah, and this kind of candy-coloured kind of spin on the Revenge film. And here, I don't know, I mean, I've only seen a few stills, and the thing is that, I don't know, I've got really high hopes for that one.
Yeah, I'm seeing that on Saturday.
Same.
Fred?
Perhaps the Serebrennikov, Kirill Serebrennikov, because he's Russian, but exiled in Germany, and Limonov is an adaptation of a French book.
Emmanuel Carrère.
Emmanuel Carrère, yes, Limonov. And Emmanuel Carrère is Russophone, actually. He knows very well Russia and all the details of these layers of political thinking in Russia. And the book was just, overwhelming me when I wrote it. But, so yeah, perhaps the Kirill Serebrennikov, especially because he's Russian.
Yeah, I see what you mean.
In these dark times.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, thank you so much, Fred, and thank you, David.
Thank you.
Thank you, John.
Perfect.